Human beings have inhabited planet Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. Over the course of history, the human species has developed from cave-dwelling creatures to innovative and advanced beings capable of constructing megacities with top-tier medicine and futuristic technology. Though these discoveries have improved the quality of human life exponentially, there is one major innovation that has unfortunately led to the demise of a beautiful land, death of millions, and the future death of the very planet we call home. This being fossil fuels, and more specifically, oil. Aside from water, oil is the most sought-after substance on the planet and has been for decades due to the Industrial Revolution. Human beings began using oil to manufacture and sustain everything in our daily lives. The overproduction of oil has led to the largest problem that our planet is currently facing: climate change. Climate change is a change in overall temperature globally every year. This has led to the melting of glacier ice caps, the future aquatic submersion of cities and countries, along with many other devastating repercussions. Along with this, the greed of oil has created arguably the largest humanitarian crisis in the Middle East. The death of millions, the torture of millions, and the destruction of the Holy Lands, and many more pressing issues have all been created due to the greed of oil. Canadian journalist turned author Omar Akkad does an excellent job of illustrating these important issues created by oil in his 2017 novel, American War. American War is a dystopian novel which takes place in the United States of America in the year 2074 in a very intense political climate. The government of America had just passed a law that bans all usage of fossil fuels. This causes much tension between major political parties in America. Along with this, the North and the South become very divided due to all renewable energy source plants being made in the North, while there is none in the South, leaving the South in poverty with no resources, as well as half of the southern coastline being submerged in water due to the rising sea levels. Due to all these factors, a second American Civil War breaks out, and again between the North and the South. The novel is told from the perspective of a Middle Eastern refugee in America, Sarat. She avoids this war, but is eventually forced to be part of it as a rebel terrorist against the North. She takes on this role due to psychological torture and being continually wronged by the North. These factors push her to join the war and become a very key player in this war. This war tests humanity on their morals and ethics, as well as pushes Sarat to make decisions that go against her own moral code. As the story progresses, the war rages on, and the novel continues to show the sides of war that are not taught to us, along with the boundaries that are pushed in society. The novel is relevant in the 21st century because it analyzes the most important issues of our time. According to Dieter Helm's article on fossil fuels, the planet will run out of fossil fuels within the next 55 years. Fossil fuels have been our planet's #1 source of power, energy, and material goods such as plastic for decades. A planet without these things would be very different and would certainly cause a plethora of global issues. Along with this, our depleting reserves of oil cause many environmental issues, such as a change in climate due to gas emissions burning holes into our ozone layer. This would result in sea levels rising and millions of homes being submerged into the ocean, as we lose cities and countries to the ocean. This is very accurately depicted in Akkad's novel, as many states have been submerged underwater, and the political turmoil caused by the banning of fossil fuels results in the death of millions because of a civil war. Along with this, the relevancy of this novel in the 21st century is heightened due to the fact that oil can be attributed to being the cause of all the war and injustice committed in the Middle East. The origin of terrorist groups and the civil war in the Middle East can be tracked back to the United States government invading the Middle East to quote-unquote aid the people of Afghanistan against the Soviet invasion. However, it is very clear they went to the Middle East to collect and extract oil, as they set up many military camps around oil reserves and began refining it. After America drove out the Soviet Union from the Middle Eastern countries, they were left with a power vacuum, and America began funding wealthy men to start militias to help to govern the countries. One of these men being Osama bin Laden. Many years later, the United States government stopped funding the militias and began taking the oil reserves by stationing their own workers there to extract and export it. The United States government took their military home and left the Middle East to fend for themselves and build their own government. This left a very important man furious, Osama bin Laden. Along with him and many other men, terrorist groups have been created. They were created due to the fact that a lot of the people were stuck in poverty, without resources, and losing family to the lack of resources available. People were starving, and people were getting shot by the government harassing. Therefore, creating many terrorist groups whom joined to create organizations. This is the origin of terrorist organizations and terrorism. Author Omar Akkad saw this firsthand when he was stationed in the Middle East to document what he saw. He took this and depicted it phenomenally in American War through the protagonist Sarat. Sarat resides in the south of America, leaving her in a poverty-torn and war-torn residence. As Sarat says, "Your side fights the war, but the war never happened to you." In the Red Country, the war happened. This means that although both the North and South participated in the war was fought in the South, meaning her home was constantly under attack and under threat. Similar to the United States government funding militias, the North paid for Surratt to take refuge in America from the Middle East. However, stationed her in the South, where she had the same living experience as she would have in the Middle East. Over time, Surratt loses her father to a surprise bombing by the North and is forced to move to a refugee camp. Here, her mother is murdered, and her brother is shot and becomes deaf. This constant trauma and stress she endures during this, along with the assault, sexism, and discrimination she faces in the camp, takes a large toll on her psychological well-being. In turn, this all factors into why she became a terrorist, for the same reason and experiences that all create all the terrorists in the Middle East in the 21st century. This idea of psychological trauma creating terrorists is precisely captured by Surratt, as she says, "There existed no soldier as efficient, as coldly unburdened by fear, as a child broken early." This novel portrays the realities of 21st century life and reinforces the norms as the loss of fossil fuels creates devastating environmental issues, along with the vast range of political, economical, and societal issues. American war can be viewed from a Marxist lens as it displays a clear economical divide. On one hand, there is the North. The North is capitalist and industrialists that are in control of over 90% of the country's wealth. They do not have any factories on their side and only have offices where they manage businesses. The South, however, is made of people in poverty that work in factories operated by the North in order to make ends meet. The vast majority of the South are labor workers. This divide can be analyzed through the Marxist theory, as the North represents the capitalist bourgeoisie and the South represents the proletariat. As Karl Marx states in his manifesto, the capitalist does not do any physical work themselves, yet reap a large surplus of the profits. Similar to the North American War, they do not work, and they rather own and operate businesses that make them a great deal of money. The second party in Marxist lens is the proletariat. They are the working class who work for the capitalists without making much money. These people are in the South of the novel, as they are the labor workers who are severely underpaid. This mode of production is known as capitalism, and is very beneficial for the North or the capitalists, but continually exacerbating for the South, as the proletariat are left in poverty. The Journal of Finance states that, in order for a person to break out of a cycle of poverty, is through resources such as an education, stable family, and a good home that enables them to be able to attain success beyond their working class. These resources are not provided for the South by the very privileged North, which aggregates the unfortunate South and in turn results in the Civil War. American War can further be analyzed from a feminist and gender lens, as a protagonist is a young woman navigating a world that is dominated by men. After the death of Surratt's parents, she lives in a refugee camp with her little brother. In this camp, Surratt faces constant discrimination and harassment from many men in the camp. A man whose name is undisclosed in the story says, "You effing immigrant, it's people like you who come here to take the little stuff we got. You're better off being a whore with that body," as she tries to help a young boy cut his food. This is a prime example of sexism, and is the constant harassment that is seen throughout the novel. This takes a mental toll on a person, and as Dr. Nazir says, the things we hear the most begin to take a mental toll on the value we give to ourselves. Surratt is constantly degraded and made to feel as a lesser person in society. Furthermore, Surratt is sexually assaulted by an officer from the North, and this leaves her in constant distress. According to Stanford University, sexual assault leaves mental scars and leads to post-traumatic stress, along with a weakened mental strength. The fact that she is a female leads to her being taken advantage of by men, and being constantly degraded by men makes her lose her idea of herself. Along with this, she is already suffering from the loss of both parents and the injury of her younger brother. This makes her very vulnerable, as she is a very broken down person by the men in society. This novel is a reflection of societal norms, as it portrays issues that women face in today's age in the context of the story. She is taken advantage of and constantly disrespected for being a woman. She is then coerced into becoming a militant for a South rebellion by a very powerful wealthy man named Albert Gaines. This is possible because the men in society have broken her down so much that she is easily manipulated. The novel American War does a great job of portraying the current issues we have today and seeing how they will age over time. The novel challenges some societal issues we have today, but as well as reinforces many of the issues we have in today's day and age. This novel challenges gender roles, as the protagonist is a female working in a predominantly male field. She is a terrorist who is able to be very successful, as she is a very good marksman who is very intelligent. Although the culture is same as what it is now, it is frowned upon for a woman to be in a role of power in a military, but this role is challenged as Omar Akkad makes sure that the protagonist is a very powerful and strong member of the militia. This novel also reinforces societal norms, such as assuming that because people are immigrants or less educated, they will be in the working class. Omar Akkad does a great job of writing this novel as he accurately portrays modern issues that we will probably be facing within the next 50 years. Along with portraying these issues, he's able to challenge and reinforce some of the norms of today's society, culture, and history. This is a very thought-provoking novel, and it is very beneficial to read as it gives you much insight on things that you may not have thought too deeply into about the corrupted world. And lastly, let us remember that forgetting is a form of violence, because we are forgetting reality and forsaking everything that people before us have done in order for life to be the way it is right now. And as those before us have done, by challenging and changing the way that the world thought, we should continue to do that and challenge societal norms, historical norms, cultural norms, and anything to do in society that is not right. This generation and the following generations will pave the way by doing so and challenging anything that is unright. Thank you.